Hello, story timers! It's your favorite story timer, Annie! And E is not here because, again, I left him by me. Now, remember last time, Omri told the Indian that it was time to go to sleep, which is where we left off. Now, we'll see how the Indian takes to being told what to do. If you have the Indian in the cupboard at home, why not go grab it so we can read together? Not now. Big light. Sleep when light go. I can make the light go, said Omri, and switched out his bedside lamp. In the darkness came a thin cry of astonishment and fear. Omri switched the light on again. The Indian was now gazing at him with something more than respect, a sort of awe. You great white spirit? He asked in a whisper. No, said Omri. And this isn't the sun. It's a lamp. Don't you have lamps? The Indian peered where he was pointing. That lamp? He asked unbelievingly. Much big lamp. Need much oil. But this isn't an oil lamp. It works by electricity. Magic? No, electricity. But speaking of magic, how did you get here? The Indian looked at him steadily out of his black eyes. You do not know? No, I don't. You were a toy. Then I put you in the cupboard and locked the door. When I opened it, you were real. Then I locked it again, and you went back to being plastic. Then... He stopped sharply. Wait! What if, he thought furiously, it was possible, in which case... Listen, he said excitedly. I want you to come out of there. I'll find you a much more comfortable place. You said you were cold. I'll make you a proper teepee. Teepee, the Indian shouted. I no live teepee. I live longhouse. Omri was so eager to test his theory about the cupboard that he was impatient. You'll have to make do with the teepee tonight, he said hastily. He opened a drawer and took out a biscuit tin full of little plastic people. Somewhere in here was a plastic teepee. Ah, here! He pounced on it. A small pinkish cone-shaped object with designs rather badly painted on its plastic sides. Will this do? He put it on the shelf beside the Indian, who looked at it with the utmost scorn. This teepee? He said. He touched its plastic side and made a face. He pushed it with both hands. It slid along the shelf. He bent and peered in through the triangular opening. Then he actually spat on the ground, or rather on the shelf. Oh, said Omri, rather crestfallen. You mean it's not good enough. Not want toy, said the Indian, and turned his back, folding both arms across his chest with an air of finality. Omri saw his chance. With one quick movement, he had picked up the Indian by the waist between his thumb and forefinger, and doing this, he pinned the knife, which was in the Indian's belt, firmly to his side. The dangling Indian twisted, writhed, kicked, made a number of fierce, hideous faces, but beyond that, he was helpless, and he evidently knew it, for after a few moments, he decided it was more dignified to stop struggling. Instead, he folded his tiny arms across his chest, once again, put his head back, and stared with proud defiance at Omri's face, which was now level with his own. For Omri, the feeling of holding this little creature in his fingers was very strange and wonderful. If he had had any doubts that the Indian was truly alive, the sensation he had now would have put them to rest. His body was heavier now, warm and firm, and full of life. Through Omri's thumb on the Indian's left side, he could feel his heart beating wildly like a bird's. Although the Indian felt strong, Omri could sense how fragile he was, how easily an extra squeeze could injure him. He would have liked to feel him all over, his tiny arms and legs, his hair, his ears, almost too small to see. Yet, when he saw how the Indian who was altogether in his power, faced him boldly and hid his fear, he lost all desire to handle him. He felt it was cruel and insulting to the Indian, who was no longer his plaything, but a person who had to be respected. Omri put him down gently on the chest of drawers where the cupboard stood. Then he crouched down till his face was again level with the Indian's. Sorry I did that, he said. The Indian, breathing heavily, and with his arms still folded, said nothing, but stared haughtily at him, as if nothing he did could affect him in any way. What's your name? Asked Omri. Little Bear, said the Indian, pointing proudly to himself. Iroquois brave, son of chief. You son of chief? He shot at Omri fiercely. No, said Omri humbly. Snorted Little Bear with a superior look. Name? Omri told him. Now we must find you another place to sleep. Outside the cupboard. Surely you sleep in teepees sometimes. Never, said Little Bear firmly. I've never heard of an Indian who didn't, said Omri with equal firmness. You'll have to tonight anyway. Not toy, said the Indian. This no good. And fire. I want fire. I can't light a real fire in here, but I'll make you a teepee. It won't be very good, but I promise you a better one tomorrow. He looked around. It was good, he thought, that he never put anything away. Now everything he needed was strewn about the floor and on tables and shelves ready to hand. Starting with some pickup sticks and a bit of string, he made a sort of cone-shaped tie at the top. Around this he draped first a handkerchief, and then, when that didn't seem firm enough, a bit of old felt from a hat that had been in the dressing-up crate. It was fawn-colored, fortunately, and looked rather like animal hide. In fact, when it was pinned together at the back with a couple of safety pins and a slit cut for an entrance, the whole thing looked pretty good, especially with the poles sticking up through a hole in the top. Omri stood up carefully on the chest of drawers and anxiously awaited Little Bear's verdict. The Indian walked around it 3 times slowly, went down on his hands and knees, and crawled in through the flap, came out again after a minute, tugged at the felt, stood back, took a look at the poles, and finally gave a fairly satisfied grunt. However, he wasn't going to pass it without any criticism at all. No pictures, he growled. If teepee didn't need pictures. I don't know how to do them, said Omri. I know. You give colors. I make. Tomorrow, said Omri, who was despite himself was beginning to feel very sleepy. Blanket? Omri fished out one of Action Man's sleeping rolls. No good. No keep out wind. Omri started to object that there was no wind in his bedroom, but then he decided it was easier to cut up a square out of one of his old sweaters, so he did that. It was a red one with a stripe around the bottom, and even Little Bear couldn't hide his approval as he held it up, then wrapped it around himself. Good, warm. I sleep now. He dropped on his knees and crawled into the tent. After a moment, he stuck his head out. Tomorrow talk. You give Little Bear meat, fire, color, much things. He scowled fiercely up at Omri. Good? Good, said Omri, and indeed nothing in his life had ever promised better. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 2. We have a little time, so I'm going to discuss some things. First of all, Omri was cutting up his sweater, which, kids, do not do it unless you have permission from your parents to cut up your clothing. Omri was only doing it because he had to give his Indian a blanket. Also, another thing. This story is not based on any real-life events, and it is not possible for you to have a key old enough that you think might turn any plastic toy of yours into a real-life human being or a real-life thing. Just don't try it out at home. It could end up in very serious disappointment for life. And also, I had something to tell you. A long time ago, my dad bought me an actual Indian from the Indian in the cupboard. So I have Little Bear now, yeah. And when I go back home, I'll show you Little Bear and the key. Sounds interesting?
It sure does.
E, is that you? Ah! No! E's haunting me! Ah! We have to turn it off soon. Bye, guys. Love you.